So I'll give you very broad strokes. I don't want to go into much technical detail. If you want the true technical details, I have a thing up on my website and my YouTube channel that goes into this is everything technical. I also have a much less technical one, and that's up on YouTube. There's links on my website to look at. So the very basic idea, have you guys ever heard of a million monkeys writing on a million typewriters will eventually recreate Shakespeare? It's an expression a lot of people have heard. Well, I actually tried it, and the name of that theorem is called infinite monkey theorem. So I used Hadoop and Ubuntu and Amazon EC2 to actually try that. And I did some things to try and keep it from having to require infinite resources, so I used 9 character sets. That's all in the videos. You can check it out when you have a chance. But this talk is more about going viral. I know I personally have never talked to anybody who's went viral. And when I say I went viral, I mean it was the monkeys went viral. It wasn't in the cool taking over the world sense, but it was viral. And so I'll just give you a few sites that I was on. So as far as tech news, I was on the front page of Slashdot, Boing Boing, Gizmodo, Engadget, Ars Technica. For mainstream media, and this isn't even the entire list, I should say. For mainstream news, I was on the cover of BBC, CNN, Fox News, Time, New York Post, Washington Post, just a few of those. For international news, that's non-English language, El País, which is in Spain, CN Beta, which is in China, Abril, which is in Brazil. And then for radio, I was on CBS Radio Dallas, Australian Broadcasting Company, and Radio New Zealand. Those are just a few of the ones I did. Those are interviews that I personally did. I did an interview today with Wall Street Journal. We'll see how that one goes. If I get in, at the very least, I'll get in the web, hopefully print. So it went viral. I mean, it went really, really viral, and which was really cool. But let me back up and tell you the project wasn't always that big of a success, at least in print. So I did a first round that was 24 characters instead of a 9-character set, and there was crickets. I mean, even amongst the people that I know, even in the developers group, nobody had heard of it. So the second round, I had an idea. I'm going to use 9 characters, and I actually got on the front page of Fox News and Engadget with that one, which was pretty cool. So I knew I was onto something, but I didn't quite know what I was onto. I didn't think that I would get to the level that I was. What I hoped is I would get an Associated Press article or get on the front page of Slashdot. That was my goal. You guys are all familiar with Slashdot, I assume? Mm-hmm. Okay. For those who aren't familiar with Slashdot, Slashdot is the site for news for nerds. I mean, if you were on Slashdot, it is geek nirvana. Let's put it that way. So that once I found the first work in Shakespeare, which I found on 9/23, I found A Lover's Complaint. That was when it went viral. So on the Sunday night, that was this 23rd was a Friday. So on the 25th, at Sunday night, I was on the front page of Slashdot. In 24 hours, so Monday, I had 25,000 unique visitors on my site. I had, if you look at my Google Analytics, I was on, a person from every country except for a few in Africa had been on my site. So it was pretty cool. On that first day, there were 500 different sites that referred to my site. And that's not including stuff that was in print. There was a lot. So some of my thoughts on that. I'm telling you the good stuff, but there's some downsides to this fame stuff. It's not like I can walk down the street and people will recognize me, but I did get a lot of negative comments. I got entire things on CNET where it was an entire article bashing me and the project, saying that I didn't really understand things. I get a lot of hate mail from people telling me that they didn't like what I did. They thought I was conning people. I mean, and it's been pretty interesting. So the lesson there is, if you are going to do something like this, you need a pretty thick skin. You need to be able to know that people are going to criticize you no matter what you do. You could do a perfect job. In this case, I think, technically speaking, I think the Monkeys project is pretty cool. You could say the statistics and math part, you could say something else about that, but I think technically it's very cool. But people are going to disagree with you. They are going to say, and you can read through the Slashdot comments, entire comment threads of, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I responded to a few of them. I responded to the ones that I thought were people that would actually listen to me. And some of those people actually did listen to me, which was interesting. The weirdest comments I got were when I was on Fox News. The people on Fox News thought that I had gotten a government grant to actually do this story, or to do this work. And that blew my mind, because I had never even thought of trying to get a government grant. I was just going to do this myself because I thought it was interesting. And I thought that was kind of a sad state of our society, that we think you need to get paid some money by the government to do something. And I thought, man, that's really sad. So I paid for it. I came up with the idea, and it was pretty cool, I think. Social objects. Create social objects that are interesting. So if I could get you to scroll down, you can actually see that I've created a lot of social objects. Is everybody familiar with what social objects are? Social objects are tweets, they're YouTube videos, they're things that can be spread socially. Somebody can take that link and actually put it out there, send it to their friends. So here's me in my kitchen actually doing one of the videos. This is a non-technical talk, which is kind of a separate note. When you do this sort of the social objects and the video especially, you need to think of it as though you're going on the front page of Slashdot, because this one guy on Slashdot actually said, you can see my knives in the background, and he said I look stoned, which was pretty funny. So I had just gotten out of the shower, so my eyes were a little red. This one, I actually had to redo. I did it in my house, and I used my wife's laptop, and the guy actually came up, commented on there that said it sounded like I was crying in the video, which was true. I actually watched it again, I thought, wow, that sounds like I'm crying for some reason. And so I redid it. I redid it with my phone at work. And so that's the kind of concept. You want social objects. You want to be able to have things that people can send around. If you scroll back up to the top, you can see I got 1,000 Facebook likes, so that's 1,000 plus because they start rounding. I got 319 tweets out of it. I got 50 LinkedIn shares. You want to have that as easy as possible, because when I first did the Engadget and Fox News story, I didn't have that there. The amount of social interaction that I got was much, much lower. You need to make it as easy as possible for people to use social media to spread it around. I get a lot of links, I get a lot of referrals from Facebook and Twitter, specifically because somebody's tweeting it and somebody is linking back to my site. Very important to do that. We also have my Twitter feed where I've gotten a lot more followers now, where people are wanting to hear about my work. They're retweeting what I'm saying. They're, in some cases, conversing with me. They're asking me questions, which is another thing that's unfortunate. My comments weren't working, so people took to other means to comment on there. They would either email me, they would comment on my YouTube videos. So make sure your stuff's working. Unfortunately, I didn't. I think one of the plugins, I put in a plugin for CAPTCHA, and I think that broke things. So for interviews, you may not have had, I personally have never had a media relations course, but I tried to do it as best I can. Try to be as engaging as possible in your interviews if you do get to that point. It's pretty interesting. And you will start to get the same sort of questions that they do in those interviews. Press wants to know why you did it, what you're going to do next. In some cases, they want to know about that product, that project. So when you're dealing with the press, you want them to be able to create a story as easily as possible from your data. So in many cases, the press didn't contact me for an interview. They just used my site as the source material for it. So I put a lot of effort into crafting a good message, writing it well, something that was easily understood, and then I created those videos just in case they couldn't understand it. So in many cases, in the BBC, for example, when the story broke, the BBC contacted me, but it was 12 a.m. and I was asleep. So what they did is they took my site and they used what I'd written on my site for their story. You want to have it as easy as possible for them to write a story. You want technical explanation and you want a non-technical explanation, especially if it's something that is a technical project like this. You do that because there are people who are curious, there are geeks who want to know about it, but they may not be programmers. So you want to have both sides of that explanation. In this case, I have a section for non-technical and a section for technical. When it goes on Slashdot, they want specifics. They want, I used Hadoop, I used Ubuntu, I used a Core 2 Duo. They want to know those sort of things. You want that meat in there. So you want it to be ready technically. You want your website to look good. You want things to be running smoothly. And you need to think about beforehand what's not necessarily scaling, but how is the site set up in a good way. So on a different page, I actually have images of every work of Shakespeare, how far away, how far long it is. And what I did there is I used index PNGs to create as small a file size as possible. You need to think ahead about how your site is going to perform under a lot of load. Use a good template. In this case, I used Elegant Themes template. There's not a lot of images to it, but I think it looks good. And you do want your site to look good as possible. If you're not a designer, try and use your best judgment. Make it look as good as you can. And you want that social media tie-in, as I pointed out before. So, was the product a success, or project a success? I think it was. I think not only did I recreate Shakespeare, almost, there's one character left in Taming of the Shrew, but I got people to talk about it. You don't see very many personal sites where somebody has 1,000 likes, and if you go to the other pages, I think I have 400 likes on the other page. So between those two, you could say I'm almost at 2,000 likes. I've gotten a lot of people talking about it. Why was it a success? I think it was because people had heard of it. A lot of people in this room had even heard of that saying, and they wanted to know about it. How could it actually be done? So I want to leave with one last thought. Success came as a result of hard work, not luck. I worked hard, not just on this project, but my entire life learning distributed systems. In many ways, this project is the result of years and years of me working very hard to learn programming well, learn distributed systems. It wasn't that I chanced upon it or that I got lucky and some reporter picked it up. I spent the time to email all those reporters. I spent at least 4 hours emailing reporters. I spent hours talking to reporters with answering their questions. It is the result of hard work that you will get ahead, not luck. Any questions? No? All right. Well, thanks for listening.